Hello, everyone, and welcome to Season 2 of Passionate People and Preposterous Peeves. I'm your host, Ike. And before you get too sucked into this awesome interview, do us both a favor and like, subscribe, and share this amazing piece of entertainment, because I am here with the one, the only, Bethany K.
Well, thank you. Thank you for having me on.
It's a pleasure. How are you doing this fine Monday? I guess it's technically afternoon.
I am doing great. School is out, and I have space to just have some fun and do things like being on a podcast.
Well, thank you so much for coming on. But just because school's over, don't think that there was no homework to be done. First question on your test. First question on your test. What is your favorite knock-knock joke?
So I've got to go with just one of the great original classics. Knock, knock.
Who's there?
Interrupting cow.
Interrupting cow who?
Got to go with an oldie but goodie.
Oldie but a goodie. Speaking of oldies but hopefully goodies, what was your first date movie?
Say that one more time.
What was your first date movie?
Oh, well, that assumes that I had a first date. Just saying.
That does assume that. Is that an incorrect assumption? And the question should be remedied of such inaccuracies for your own personal experience?
Yeah, I mean, I'm just trying to think if I've ever, watched a movie on a date ever. I don't know that I have.
Wow. We got a Luddite on this podcast, I tell you, folks. Watch out. She's ready to take down these machine governments. All right. So in lieu of that, what do you think would make a great first date movie? What movies have you seen in the past?
Make a good first date movie. Okay.
Yeah. Which ones would you recommend, or if you could go back in time, would have watched on a first date with a friend or love interest?
See, now here's the problem: is that I just really don't watch an awful lot of movies.
That is a problem.
Here we go. If we're looking at a perfect first date movie,
yep.
I'm going to say The Lord of the Rings. And here's the reason. It's a fantastic movie. It's a great way to see whether or not someone is actually an acceptable date, but also it's freaking long. And so if they are willing to stick around to watch that entire movie, then you probably are good to go.
Trial by fire.
Yes.
So to speak.
Yes. And if it's only a first date, you haven't lost out on much because it's an amazing movie.
Exactly. Can't lose. All upside. Speaking of can't lose and all upside, what's your favorite meal to make just for yourself, assuming cost and time are not relevant factors?
If cost and time are not relevant, I would say homemade macaroni and cheese. Not that it takes a lot of cost or time.
I was going to say.
The alternative is a bagel. So compared to that, it is a lot of cost. Time,
the alternative to Kraft mac and cheese is a bagel, folks.
No.
You hear it first.
Let me be very clear. Not Kraft mac and cheese. Legit homemade mac and cheese. Shredded cheese, macaroni noodles, milk, the whole 9 yards.
All right, what's your... I'm only a Kraft mac and cheese man because I'm really lazy and most frequently have been on the dole. What goes into... how much time, how much money are we talking for a good homemade mac and cheese versus Kraft?
So generally, if I'm going to make mac and cheese, it's going to be a full dish. So we're talking, maybe 6 or 7 servings worth. So it's a little hard to compare because Kraft is a serving and a half unless you are a teenage boy, and then it's a quarter of a serving. But so comparatively, I guess by weight, Kraft might actually be more expensive. But you get a pound of macaroni noodles. So depending on brand, there's your $2 or $3, and probably about half a loaf of sharp cheddar cheese is my preference.
Say half a loaf?
Yes.
What's a loaf of cheese?
I think a loaf is 2 pounds, right?
Whoa, I don't know if I'm showing my ignorance or your genius, but Loaf of cheese.
So a block of cheese is usually 1 pound, I think. And then I think it's technically called a baby loaf. I know how big it is. It's like a giant like rectangle. I don't know. Half a loaf of cheese, man. And then some butter and some milk. And if you're really fancy, like my wife, you make a roux first. I think it's called a roux, and then you pour that over the top. I'm not that fancy, but so it's the time and cost investment. Not that it's much, to be fair, but it's just so good. How can you choose anything else? I mean, I'll take that over like I don't know, like lobster or whatever.
Are we putting bacon bits in there? Are we putting chopped up little weenies in there? What? Any other kind of accoutrement? Any proteins?
So when you're feeling really fancy, and y'all can tell that I'm a very fancy person.
The fanciest.
Yes, the fanciest person. You take an onion and you saute it a little bit first, and you scatter that in there as you're kind of layering things in. And then you also take a hot dog and you cut that up and you fry it a little bit, and then you also scatter that in amongst your mac and cheese.
We breadcrumbing or no?
No.
No breadcrumb.
No. That's like a whole different dish.
Fair enough. What is your favorite non-exercise thing that you have to force yourself to do?
Depends on your definition of exercise, I guess. Probably gardening. Like some people would say that that's exercise, I guess, but being outside.
No. I'm talking specifically about like going to the gym, that kind of like exercise for the sake of exercise. So you're good with gardening.
Yeah, gardening for sure, I think. You're like just really don't want to go outside, and then you do, and you are so grateful. But every single time, it doesn't matter how many times you do it, every single time it's like, I should go outside. And then you do, and it's awesome. It's great.
This is true. What is your favorite thing to garden? Or what is your... Let's start... What is your favorite thing... What is your favorite aspect of gardening? And what is your favorite thing to put in the ground? And like... Or what is your favorite thing to plant? I guess it's the technical term.
I honestly think that one of my favorite things about gardening is that you're just outside. Like I like being outside and kind of away from the normal spaces. And what I like to put in the ground is stuff that is edible. And to be very clear, I actually don't eat most of the stuff that I grow because I have like a ton of food allergies.
I've seen the list. It is quite vast.
But things that other people can eat, I guess. Not a fan of flowers. Apologies to your mother. But yeah, fruit trees, tomatoes, cucumbers, onions, squash, things you can eat.
Totally. What is the do you have a calculation of how many things are on said list? I don't want you to read it out because I know it would take a while, but just so the listeners at home know the kind of like, throw a little, show off a little. How many allergies are we actually talking about?
My list has actually gotten easier. It used to be that I had to list a lot of things, and now I just say every single fruit. So I don't have to list all the fruits anymore, so that helps. And same thing with the nuts. Now I can just say every single tree nut instead of having to list them all. I don't know. There's a few vegetables here and there. 17 different kinds of grass, which I think I could just safely just say all grass at this point too, but not gluten or peanuts. So,
Yeah. I mean, take the W's where you can get them.
Oh yeah, for sure.
But yeah, just an astounding amount of things.
If I ever develop a problem with gluten, I'm just gonna starve to death.
Yeah, it's just game over, man. I've met people that are allergic to gluten. I've met people that are allergic to peanuts, and I'm just like, how do you do it? Like I don't understand from like just how you do it to begin with. Well, so it's kind of weird, but I understand.
The peanut allergy, where it's like if you're in the same room, like that's intense. Like I feel so bad for those people. But to be honest, like you just kind of get used to it, like you figure out how to make your life work, and everyone has something that they're dealing with.
I feel like I remember going out to dinner once with you, and you had like a, what are you allergic to? And you had like a piece of paper ready to just like hand to the waiter. I don't think I'm making that up. I'm like, I feel like I'm pretty sure I've seen that. We're just like, so what do you, like, can't have these things. Oh, so what are you allergic to? And they're expecting like one thing. You're just like, here's a
All
thesis.
the
Have a night,
things.
read my life.
Yeah, but seriously, like it's kind of more convenient that I developed more allergies because it makes the list simpler.
Yeah, there's no like addendums and like, but actuallys. It was just, clean cut. It's great. Sometimes more problems are better. Uh, who's someone you've never met, alive or dead, that you'd like to have lunch with, assuming there were no vegetables or
Most vegetables are
tree
okay.
nuts?
Fruit really is.
Or
Yeah,
sorry,
yeah.
most fruit or tree nuts.
I think Dolly Parton.
Oh yeah, she's the best.
In so many ways.
Yeah, just library like books, like if you look at what she's done for literacy in like her state and like the South, it's like freaking amazing. So I'm pretty sure I'm not mixing this up with anybody else, but she has a book program that she provides like everybody. Is she from, where's Dolly Parton from? Do you know? Trying to remember.
It's probably gonna be wrong. I think it's Tennessee.
It's Tennessee?
You can look that up and cut it out if I'm wrong.
No, it's all good. I think it is. Yeah, it's she's born in Tennessee. So she created a book program in Tennessee that I believe, I don't even think you have to go in. I think you can just like write to them. It's free, and
And
they
you
send
just
you
do
a
it
book.
online.
Oh, does it do it online now? I know, like either which way, you can contact her, like this group that she has. They'll send you a book, and then you send it back, and they'll send you another book.
Oh, I'm thinking
It's,
of a different program. That's cool. I
I think
believe,
that's
I may be wrong, but I believe that she does books for kids for the first 5 years. Free books, any family.
yes, yeah. That one I know of as well. She's done so much for the community in Tennessee, especially for literacy. It's so beautiful. Definitely like one of those people that took their, their prominence, their fame, and their money and did like just so much positive for
Well,
with it.
and I
It's
think that part of
fantastic.
that is just that she comes from so little. Like she gets
Hmm.
it.
Yeah, she's like one of those people that has experienced hardship and being around that and like wanting to make a difference because she saw like how big the problem was like firsthand. So it's so awesome when you see somebody able to like utilize, like, I don't get me wrong, there's nothing wrong, like it's not requisite, but it's like one of those things that's like it earns, for me at least, it earns a lot of respect. It's talking of respect, or maybe a lack thereof it. What's your favorite non-traditional curse word?
Okay,
If you'd
so
like examples, I have many.
um, I don't know. I don't curse,
Yeah.
and I don't even really do the filler words. And I don't know. I thought about that for a
What is
really
your
long time.
go-to quasi expletive when you stub your toe or something unexpectedly bad and obnoxious happens? What's your go-to just,
Ouch. Shoot. Darn.
shoot? No, shoot is complete. That counts. That
All
plays.
right. All right. Shoot.
I mean, that is a stand-in for shit. That's all that
That's
is.
true. That's true.
Yeah. There's nothing wrong with it. It's a great classic.
It's not creative or anything, but yeah.
I mean, it's short, it's simple, it's sweet. It does the job complete. It's all you really want a word to do at the end of the day. So, if it's accomplishing that, I think it's a winner in my book. What inanimate object would you be best friends with were it sentient?
My guitar.
Aw. How long have you had said guitar?
Well, I've gone through a variety of guitars. I'm trying to think. I don't think I've ever actually owned my own guitar. So I had my dad's
Still-
guitar, and then I used my wife's guitar, and now I have my wife's mom's guitar. I don't think I've ever owned my own guitar.
So you're a guitar freeloader.
Yes. 100%. Guitars are like stupid expensive.
They are not cheap, to be sure, unless they're probably bad. Then they're cheap. What kind of music do you like to play on guitar?
I wish I could play more. My talents are limited to basically 90s and early 2000s Christian worship songs because that's all I've ever practiced.
They play what you know, you know?
Yeah, a fair number of songs where if you wanted a nice, rousing jump around the campfire with a bunch of like 7 and 8 year olds, I could make that happen too.
As somebody who has gone too many a year of Christian camp with Bethany, I can attest to these to these findings.
We can sing about penguins. We can sing about
That's
having
the best.
tea.
Singing about penguins just does it for me.
Yeah.
Christian cult or not, I don't care. I'll sing about penguins all day. Sing about penguins until they come home. Do you have a life hack you'd like to share with the class?
I feel like I don't do the whole life hack thing because I'm kind of bad at life. But the one thing that I have come across within the last year is the tile. It's that little like Bluetooth GPS thing that you put on your keys so that when you lose them, you just go to your phone and you hit a little button and they start pinging in the other room. And it's amazing. It has cut down on the anxiety and time that I spend looking for keys by probably at least an hour a week, I would say.
Wow.
It's beautiful.
Yeah. Like just for listeners out there and yourself, if this changes your answer, a life hack doesn't have to be like amazing. It can be very simple. The way that I got inspired for this was a friend of mine. His life hack is instead of putting laundry in the laundry basket, he just puts it in the washer until it's full and then like presses go.
Ah, I like that
so
one.
that was his, yeah, it's a great life hack. It's one that I've sort of utilized. I'm still kind of stuck in my own ways, but like definitely one that I like try to utilize more. So it doesn't have to be amazing, though. I mean, getting a tile, how much do tiles cost? Are they cheaper? Because I feel like I remember looking back in the day and they were not as cheap as I wanted for something where you know, get back 20 minutes a week or something like that collectively.
Yeah, well, I get back a lot more time than that because
Yeah,
I
it
lose
sounds
my
like
stuff all the time.
Yeah,
And
it sounds like
they
that's a lot big gain for you.
They work the other direction too, so I can hit the button on my keys and I can find my phone with it. So I just bought the clearance from last year's model. So unfortunately, it's like a strawberries design or something, which I would have never chosen, but it was 50% off. So then it was reasonable.
What's wrong with strawberries?
They're
it's because you're
pink.
allergic. Whoa! Are you taking a shot at the color pink, the greatest color there is?
Okay, so I have to say, like, a lot of stuff that I own is pink, and the entire reason is that I swear, anytime something is on clearance, it is only available in pink. You probably don't have as much of an issue with this, because I assume that you probably shop primarily in the men's department, but the clearance stuff is always pink.
Yeah. Damn you, patriarchy. All right, get a tile, everybody. Save an hour a week if you're like Bethany. If you were a condiment, which do you think you'd be?
Ketchup.
Ketchup, like it.
Yeah.
Joining a very illustrious crew.
It's basically just sugar that we pour on whatever we want.
Yeah, it's tomato syrup. That's all it is.
Yes,
for sure. Would you say that's a favorite condiment of yours, or do you just like, what is it about ketchup that you kind of identify with?
It's kind of bland and versatile.
Well, I like that you're giving it yourself at least half of a prop, but you're not bland. No. Nobody's bland. Nobody should refer to themselves as bland. Everybody's a very flavorful person. Speaking of, I don't know, there's a tie in there, but I'm missing it. Growing up, what did you want to be? Do you remember like a first or early, like long set, you know, ooh, this is what I want to grow up to be kind of daydream?
So from about 5 years old until, I don't know, like mid-20s, the plan was to be a gymnastics coach. And then life
Well,
happened.
okay. So we're gonna rewind a little bit. Uh, the reason why did you want to be a gymnastics coach from such an early age as opposed to a gymnast?
That's actually a really good question. I don't know, partially. But so I did gymnastics and had an amazing teacher. Her name was Betty Daly. And so when you think of gymnastics, you probably think of like what you see in the Olympics,
Hmm.
which is the most popular current style of gymnastics, but really isn't everything. And Betty actually had a daughter who did more of like what you might identify as like circus type of work and like show business and stuff. And so it was more like group based. And she
Hmm.
was just an amazing, amazing person. Um, just warm and loving, and everyone always felt safe and positive and excited. And like, there's still little phrases that, I can remember her saying, and things will pop into my head. I'm like, oh, that was from Betty Daly 30 years ago. Um, and like, she just did such an amazing job of making me feel confident and um, like I wanted to be able to do that for other people.
Mm. Oh, that's so cool. So why in up into your 20s, why did that go away? Why did that no longer become what you wanted to be and what you kind of sought after?
Um, Realities of being an adult. So for one, like just the way that the gymnastics industry works,
Hmm.
um, like when do kids go do sport? After school, right? So
Hmm.
if you just want to coach, you can work at most 4 hours a day, right? Because like those are
Hmm.
the hours that kids are there. Unless you want to teach 1,000 mommy and me classes, which I can tell you, not my jam. I've done it. I've taught them, but teaching an 18-month-old to roll around on the floor is not what I'm there for. Um, and so the only other option at that point is to like own or manage your own gymnastics studio.
Hmm.
And so that was actually kind of the direction that I was trying to head, and had an avenue for that actually set up and had since I was like 15. And for whatever reason, just kind of things fell through. And I said, well, I guess I need a real job. And so kind of shifted into teaching. And, I do a lot of similar stuff. And I feel like it fills a lot of the same like goals and desires of I'm working with kids as a PE teacher. So they're there because they have to be there, which is a little different than their parents paying a lot of money for them to be there. Um, but a lot of the same types of things.
Is that something you think you're gonna look back on and wish had happened, or are you kind of glad that it didn't happen?
I still wish that that had happened.
Hmm. Is that something that potentially maybe after you've retired or if an opportunity presented itself you'd still kind of chase after? Or do you think it's kind of mostly gone at this point?
Yeah, I've gone back and forth on that a little bit. It's very physically demanding, and there are styles of coaching that are not very hands on, which is not what I grew up with. Um,
Hmm.
but like, there are people who stand in the corner and coach, and they do a great job, and nothing against that. But like, it's not the style of coaching that I grew up with. And man, Betty Daly, I swear, she was still, you know, in her late 60s and 70s, you know, she was there physically hands on helping me do a backflip, like just amazing. But I don't know that my body could take that many more kicks in the face at this point. Like once you get out, you kind of realize how much like physical abuse your body has taken over the years.
Hmm.
Just the nature of, kids flying through the air and you being right next to them. Which maybe is why some people don't coach quite so hands on, Um, but I have thought about it. I think it'd have to be like the perfect opportunity, you know? Like
Yeah.
if I moved back to an area that had, you know, some of the people that I grew up with, a lot of my friends do have their own gymnastic studios now, like in all sorts of different states. I think that Betty Daly left an amazing legacy in that aspect of all of the people who've gone on to kind of continue that tradition. And that style. But I think that probably if I was gonna like have my own something at this point, it would be archery, not gymnastics. That's kind of the more direction that I've been heading as far as the coaching side of things. Also, you get kicked in the face a lot less.
Shot in the abdomen, but not kicked in the face. So
okay, so at least for
apples, potatoes.
For PE, archery goes back and forth between the second and third safest sport. Only safer sports, ping pong and bowling. So let's just be very clear. Not gonna get shot in the abdomen.
It's kind of impressive that I understand ping pong. It's like you have to go way out of your way to like mess up and run your head into the table. It's kind of funny that bowling is like the safest one. It's like giving kids these, you know, very heavy balls that they can actually drop on their foot very easily, or like pull a muscle like trying to, you know, do a thing. I am a little surprised that I'm also surprised that archery is so low, just given the fact that like, you know, one kind of kid just jerking a shot like really obviously really hard, but you know, just like somebody says their name and they just turn around instinctively, like letting go of the, you know, the arrow and hitting somebody. It seems like that one would be like higher up than, I know soccer, there's a lot of contact, but also, you know, it's just a ball and grass. That's kind of amazing.
Yeah, and part of it is just the way that it's structured. You know, like kids take things seriously when they need to. And yeah, I like the only injuries that we ever get at archery is when there's an arrow really close to the ground and someone like drags their knuckles and scrapes their knuckles on the ground or something like that. I have seen a lot of injuries in other sports, and yeah, I don't know how many broken arms and ankles and things you've seen in your life, but I'll take archery over those. Yes, I've seen enough.
All right, I'm going to put you in a theoretical situation.
All right.
You're going out to a party and you want to look just like the bee's knees. You want to pop. You want people to notice you. Mm-hmm. What item?
Because I always want people to notice me.
Yeah. You gotta stand out for some reason. I don't know if it's a fundraiser. I don't know if it's, you know, whichever, you know, reason you find necessary. You want to stand out. What item do you adorn yourself with other than your normal garb to really pop? What accessory are you putting on?
Glasses, I think.
Glasses?
Some nice looking shades.
Oh, shades, okay.
Mm-hmm.
I thought you were going that faux nerd style and having glasses without the lenses.
Nope.
Shades, all right.
Yep.
Looking cool. So you're gonna wear your sunglasses at night, huh? Nobody?
Did we say night? Did I miss that part of the question?
No, it's fine.
It's an evening event.
Does it matter if it's an evening event? Does it change your answer?
I mean, I guess if it was at night, I probably wouldn't be wearing the shades. I don't know what I would wear though.
Just wear the shades on the top of your head so you can still see.
That's true. I do that a lot.
Well, other than learning not to wear your sunglasses at night, what life lessons do you wish you learned sooner?
Finance. My dad did a really good job with us about money, but I think that learning to save for specific things and to save early, like even earlier than we did, I think would have been the life lesson that I wish I had learned earlier.
Yeah. All you got to do is take one class and look at like exponential growth and like, you know, compound interest.
Right.
And then you're just like, oh crap, I should have been doing this 5 years ago. It's kind of, there's a couple things in life that I've run into where the answer is, you know, when should I start doing this? And it's like,
yesterday.
Well, 20 years ago, but the best day is now. Like saving's definitely one of those. Like, you know, like there's certain stocks. It's like, when should I have bought this? It's like, well, you know, 20 years ago when it was cheap, but now because it's just going to go up, and it's very much like kind of like investing in yourself. It's like, yeah, should have started as soon as humanly possible, but you know, now's as good a time as any. All right, this is a bit cryptic, but if you're up for it, I'm very interested in what you have to say.
Okay.
If you could choose your last words and their circumstance in which they are uttered, what would you choose?
I mean, I'm tempted to just say something like, I'm ready. Circumstance? A long time from now.
Right on. You'd prefer it be one that you'd prefer the circumstance. It sounds like by the way you're saying it that you'd prefer to kind of be on a deathbed of sorts and very much, you know, have everything kind of taken care of, and you know, just like just take it, you know, not board the plane trip early, but you know, be ready to board when you're kind of called upon to.
Yeah. A lot of people I feel like are like quick tragic accident, or, you know, get over quick. I don't know that I necessarily buy into that, but I also think that I want to feel like I've like finished what I want to do, you know?
Mm-hmm. Gotta put that last puzzle together.
Yeah.
All right, well, since you already dissed on my Kraft macaroni and cheese, what then poor luxury item do you still enjoy to this day?
Oh, I still enjoy a good Kraft mac and cheese, don't get me wrong. You said no time constraints.
Fair enough.
So, yeah, I mean...
I retract my presumed dissent on your part over Kraft mac and cheese. Do you have a book on the shelf, a graphic novel, TV show, or movie that is just waiting the eaves to be completed or consumed next for you?
Oh, I have lots of books that are waiting. Probably more than I have actually read. Currently...
What's the number one that you can't wait to get to, or that's next to be enveloped?
Yeah, so I just keep a stack. There's usually like 6 or 7, and so it kind of depends on how I'm feeling. Like, what do I want to grab next? I think that right now, the 2 on that stack that probably are most enticing are How to Train Your Dragon. I think we're on like the 5th book in the series, and Fyodor Dostoevsky's Brothers Karamazov.
Literally heard of that book last night when watching a random like YouTube clip or something.
Wait,
like that.
What? The Brothers K? You haven't heard of it before?
I had never heard of it before. To the surprise of very few people, I would imagine. I'm not that well read. Like I know who Dostoevsky is, but I didn't know of that book until last night. I was hearing some considerably smarter people than I talk about it on like some YouTube like clip podcast like snippet or something like that. I was like, oh, never heard of that before. A little wild than 24 hours ago from not hearing about it to hearing about it twice.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know that I necessarily recommend it to most people. Like, you definitely have to be in the right mood, have enough time, and be willing to, like, I don't know, if you're gonna read it, you probably got to read it twice. Just saying. To actually, you know, get it all. How to Train Your Dragon, on the other hand, you can probably get it all in the first read.
Yeah, to the surprise of hopefully no one. So you've read the first 4, and I'm presuming that, have you seen the films?
Yes, yeah.
How do you have one that you prefer, and like how different are they?
I would just say they're 2 completely different things. As is often the case, I feel like, with books and movies. So the movie adaptations have like the kind of basic storyline. Like there's a kid and there's some dragons. But beyond that, they're not the same thing.
Okay.
So I really like the books are geared towards, like, I don't know, maybe like 7-year-old boys probably is like the target audience. There's lots of belching and farting and big boobied Bertha. And like even like the text, like the font and stuff is kind of scrawled in the margins and sketched and stuff. So it's pretty fun.
That's
Whereas, of
cool.
course, the movies are just really, really well done.
Yeah.
And I loved How to Train Your Dragon. I think that if I had to choose, I'd choose the books, though.
Do you think that tonally they're a good representation, or is it just like it was an interesting impetus starting off point and then they just kind of like went their own separate ways?
Yeah, I think it was mostly just kind of a starting off point of like, oh, this is
Mm.
kind of a cool concept. We can use this. And
Hmm.
most of the names and the general concept and go from there.
Cool. And lastly, before we throw it to a commercial break, if you could have listeners of this podcast hear one song you're choosing, which would it be?
So the Patty Loveless version of You'll Never Leave Harlan Alive.
What about this song speaks to you?
So the album Mountain Soul was one of my very, very few CDs that I owned growing up, so I listened to it a lot. And I really enjoy the instrumentation and the sound and the richness of it. And I just like Patty Loveless's voice. But it's also just a really good, like, digging into what it means to have roots and what it means to be stuck in where you were born and kind of how communities and stuff struggle to move forward or to not move forward depending on you know the outside forces that come in. So it's you can keep it nice and on the surface or real deep as well. Make it pretty existential if you really wanted to.
All right, cool. And with that, we're going to throw it to our first break. Feel free to stick around and enjoy this totally real commercial, or take a minute to enjoy You'll Never Leave Harlan Alive by Patty Loveless. Or if you wanted to hear a song from a previous episode, check out the playlist on Spotify, Passionate People and Preposterous Peeves Podcast Song Rex. It's a long title, I know.
Don't worry, there's a link in the description.
Either way, see you in a jiffy. Hey you. Yes, you. Yes, I'm talking to you. Have you ever wanted to record audio? Or perhaps fiddle with recorded audio? Maybe even record audio of a fiddle and then fiddle with said audio? Well, now you can with Audacity? With all the run-of-the-mill bells and whistles, you'll be confusing yourself with the tech in no time. But won't that cost lots of money? Because with my snow-blowing habit, I can only afford it. It ain't gonna cost shit. Audacity is free and easy enough to use that even a snow-blowing son of a gun can use it too. Welcome back. So I'm here with Bethany. Bethany, what is your passion that you've brought with you today?
Backpacking, or generally outdoorsiness.
What is it about packpacking that you just love so much?
For me, obviously being outside, being in nature, but the physical and technical challenge of trying to complete the task is really what is intrinsically motivating. So some people like to make little to-do lists and check things off or cross them out. And it's kind of the same type of thing, except for you're in the middle of the wilderness and you have to hike 17 miles to get to the place where you can camp while getting eaten by mosquitoes. So, they're about the same. It's great.
When do you remember when you first went backpacking?
I want to say that my first backpacking trip was like 5 years ago. Like, I don't think I'd actually been backpacking before that.
Oh, wow. So this is something that you've recently picked up. This hasn't been like a lifelong love. This is something that you're fairly, like, very much new, very much in quotations. I mean, 5 years is a while.
So, well, I mean, COVID, you have to add 2 or 3 years to everything. So I guess probably like 7 or 8 years. But, yeah, so I mean, I've done lots of outdoor hiking and camping and those types of things, which have a lot of the same experience and a lot of the same draw, but like actual backpacking, it's just been a few years.
What got you into it, and what makes it so much better than just like your normal humdrum hiking?
I don't remember why we decided to go. It was some friends, and we said we were gonna do it. I think that we'd kind of all collectively been like watching videos of people on YouTube doing hiking and stuff, as YouTube just kind of permeates your life in weird ways sometimes. And decided, hey, we're gonna do this. We're gonna make it happen. We all like being outdoors. We like, we would go on day hikes and stuff together. We'd gone out, car camping and stuff, and said, let's do the backpacking thing. And so we started, I think it was in maybe February, quote unquote, training, little did we know, but, and kind of acquiring gear that we needed. And that part of the process was also really fun and reinforcing. And so if you get really deep into backpacking, like, cut the handle off of your toothbrush type of deep into backpacking, there's just a lot of really cool planning and optimization and technicality that goes along with it. That we had no clue, of course, the first time what we were in for. But for me, what's different than, say, a day hike, or say like hiking in somewhere and staying at that camp for a few days and then hiking back out, like, I don't know that I would really consider that backpacking so much. Part of it is you see something new every day. And that there's this pressure that you've got to get to where you need to go, because there's no backing out. It's an endurance sport in a lot of ways. There's a lot of just psychological, one foot in front of the other. But there's just a lot of joy and fun and beauty that goes along with it as well. It's kind of just take everything that you would on a day hike and magnify that by 50. And that's the experience. All the good and the bad. Magnify your blisters by 50 as well. But
that's so cool. What would you say is the biggest misconception about backpacking by the wider world?
That you have to be fit to do it, and that it's expensive. So you can do a ton of training and be all fit and everything and spend all of your money on the super fancy gear and all that kind of stuff. But you don't have to. It is accessible. If you want to go backpacking, you can go backpacking. I mean, yes, you need to be smart about it. If you don't do a lot of movement, don't plan on hiking 10 miles each day. But, we've taken several different people out backpacking with us, and you just kind of adjust based on what people are comfortable with. And as long as you are willing to kind of, follow best practices and be a little smelly and poop in the wilderness, then you can do it. If you're not willing to poop in the wilderness, I'm sorry, don't go. But aside from that...
Something about just the turn phrase "poop in the wilderness," especially the way you pronounce your P's, is so funny. It's gonna poop.
So there is a rating system for pooping in the wilderness.
Expound, please.
Yeah, I mean, so first you have to find a spot to dig an appropriate cat hole, which can be challenging. Especially if you have lost your trowel for some reason. Potentially you forgot it when you were packing up your campsite the previous day. No one knows. And so, some loose dirt or scree is a good option. But you got to find a good spot. So there's the first part. But once you're there, you got that was sufficient. It was private. And then you have the on the side of a mountain looking out over the lake. And then you have the on the side of the mountain looking out of the lake while the sun is setting, And then you have like on the side of the mountain looking out over the lake while the sun is setting, and there is a wild animal 10 to 15 feet from you also taking a poo. Like just, the scale of just the perfect pooping in the woods experience.
Oh, don't tell me if I'm right or wrong, but I envision you having like a notebook rating your poops in the wilderness experiences. I don't want to know if that's true or not true. Please don't tell me either which way. That is just staying in the back of my brain.
All right, I will let you ponder and wonder forever whether or not that is true.
Yeah, it's the new Schrodinger's cat, whether Bethany has a wilderness poop journal. Well, I feel like that might be the next question I have to ask was, what's your favorite non-obvious aspect of backpacking? But it sounds like that might be your answer.
No, it is not.
Okay, what's your...
Generally speaking, the mosquitoes make the pooping in the woods a quite miserable experience.
Okay.
But there are those rare instances where, it's just like, who wants to sit in a bathroom when you can be here? Ask your question again. I'm just distracted.
Pooping in the wilderness, surrounded by mosquitoes, will do that. What is your favorite non-obvious aspect of backpacking?
I think it's the people that you meet. We generally have hiked on the Pacific Crest Trail because it's very well marked, traveled, easy access. I mean, that's relative, but it's, as long as you're not in Yosemite, it's easy to get permits for, all that kind of stuff. But we have often hiked southbound instead of northbound for a variety of reasons, which have not always been good ones, but that's what we've done anyway. And you just get to see people coming from the other direction. And that's kind of true no matter where you are, but more so because it's a pretty heavily trafficked area. And swap stories, and even just like a nod, good morning, or how's the trail up ahead, because you have information that the other people don't have, which is a really kind of interesting component. So if I am trying to get to a certain place and someone is coming the other way, like I can ask them like, hey, like, do any of these streams actually have water in them? Or do I have to make it another 7 miles before I have access to water? We've had several years where we've had fire issues, so you have people coming up the other way saying like, the trail is open from here to here, but after that they have a blockade due to fire. So it's kind of fun to be an expert, even though like I'm not an expert backpacker by any means. But, and generally because we hike the PCT, like a lot of those people that we're coming in contact with, like they're on mile 1,000. Like they've been out there for weeks. And yet, even though I'm on maybe mile 125, I still have like useful information for them, which is a lot of fun and something that I never really anticipated would happen.
That's so cool. Love those moments. Those like kind of not. I mean, it's spontaneous, but it's not the spontaneous aspect of it. It's the kind of just to play into the cliche. It's off the beaten path, right? It's like you find yourself like lacking on resources, whether it be knowledge, whether it be supplies, and kind of finding out from other people. It sounds like also in situations like this, you could, if you do find out that down the road there's no water, potentially if you're running low, that person could supply you with some if they have extra. And that kind of that kind of roguish experience of limited resources and like using like in a odd way like all the parts of like the buffalo that you come across, to achieve your like requisite goal. It's always so cool.
With people that you have never met before and will never meet again.
Yeah.
And yet there is still this kind of community. And like there are people who, they call them trail angels. And they will set up like where there's road access, like where they can get a car in. They'll just like drive up for the weekend with their barbecue and make burgers for every hiker that comes by.
Oh,
It's amazing. I cannot describe to you how good a hamburger tastes when you have been hiking for 5 days and eating rehydrated, freeze-dried foods, and you unexpectedly just like walk up and there's like camp chairs and sodas
That's so
and burgers
dope.
on the grill and
That's
so
sweet.
there's just like this really cool hiking community that is, generally this type of stuff happens like on the Pacific Crest Trail or the Appalachian Trail, the really heavily traveled areas. If you just pick some random hike, no one's going to be waiting there for you with a burger. Let's be honest.
Yeah.
But,
on the
the
biggins.
the community is just really cool.
That's so sweet. I love that idea. All right, so this isn't a peeve section, but I'm curious to get your take as somebody who has gone hiking and camping a fair amount. What is your opinion on people that drive up to a campsite in like an RV or a vehicle, like a van that they use to sleep in? They hike around for the day, they come back, and they like sleep in their car. They sleep at the campsite near like, a bathroom, porta potty, running water. Is there a distinction for you between those two things? Is one of them like lesser, get to claim they're less of a camper, or is it just you prefer to not do that, or you would do that if you had a camper?
I don't know if I would do the camper thing. We do tent camping like that. They're different. I think that's what it is. They're different things and they're different experiences, and people should be outside. So if that's the way that you feel comfortable being outside, do it by all means. You'll get, less blisters and you don't have to dig a hole to poop. Or depending on where you are, you don't have to then put your poop into a container and hike it out with you. I feel like car camping is so much easier access, and if you can make it happen by all means. Go for it.
I was hoping for a little bit more vitriol, but I will take the sweet appreciation of both sides of the coin.
Yeah. So if you look at like the breadth, so like when I say backpacking, what I generally mean is like long distance backpacking. Mm-hmm. So you have like staying at a hotel at a destination. Then you have like maybe staying in a cabin, and then there's car camping, and then there's hiking, and then there's like packing in for a few miles, and then just staying at base camp, and like some backpacking, and then there's like long distance hiking. And when we go long distance hiking, I feel like the person who's staying in the RV next to the toilets. Like that's the difference between me and through hikers who are doing like 1,500 miles. Like there's that much of a gap. Mm-hmm. Like I'm like you can look and you can tell like who is truly a long distance backpacker, and that is not me. I'm sorry. I would love to do it someday, but
what keeps
people
you from
do what
doing
they
it
can.
now?
I have a job. So generally, there are some trails that are shorter, but I would probably have to take off 2 months on both sides of summer to make that happen.
Oh, wow. You're talking that long.
Yeah. So we're talking I don't know, maybe you leave in April and you finish in September. And you're just doing your thing all the way in between.
All right.
Unless you're crazy. There are some people who do 40 to 50 miles a day every day and just plow through. I don't feel like you could enjoy anything, but everyone hikes their own hike.
That's just preposterous. Speaking of preposterous, best segue ever, by its sight unseen. Bethany, what is your preposterous peeve?
Well, I think that you are going to ridicule me for this one, but when I go to someone's house and I go to use the bathroom and I use the bathroom and I go and I turn the sink on to wash my hands, and it does not have a flow regulator. That is it. I get so mad in that moment that there is no flow regulator on their bathroom sink.
What is a what for those of us not so easily annoyed by such inconveniences? What is a flow regulator?
So most sinks now, I think, come standard with them. So if you've ever washed your hands in a sink and felt like it was more air than water coming out,
okay,
it's kind of like bubbly and stuff. That's a flow aerator that has like a really, really low capacity. It's like maybe like a half gallon a minute or something like that. So it takes the water pressure from your house and steps it down to a certain flow rate. So a lot of older houses with older fixtures don't have one of those. So you turn on the tap and just a ton of water comes pouring out, right?
Okay.
I think that you probably have experienced that some sinks pour a ton of water out and some don't.
Sure.
You just didn't know that the reason is because those people who have that massive amount of water coming out have chosen not to put a flow regulator on there.
What is it about the lack of a flow regulator that bothers you?
It's just such an easy way to conserve water. Like, you don't need that much water to wash your hands or brush your teeth. It is not necessary. They cost like, I don't know, $3 or something. And they literally, it's just, so the inside of that faucet is threaded. And you literally just screw it on. It takes like 10 seconds and a trip to Home Depot.
When did you notice this? Like, do you remember why and when this started bothering you?
My parents do not have flow regulators on their bathrooms. Every time that I go home, I'm like, should I just secretly bring one with me and just put it on there?
They'll
I don't know.
Never notice.
Oh, they will notice. It will be a massive difference. But like, I don't know, like you go to like newer residential construction, I feel like for the most part, this isn't going to happen. But if you go to like older houses or like farmhouses, older construction, even sometimes like, okay, so this one made me really mad. The school that I teach for rents land from the fairgrounds, and we did our graduation ceremony in one of their buildings, and the sinks in their bathrooms did not have flow regulators. And I was like, okay, so when the fair is going on and there are like hundreds of people coming through here, and to make matters worse, they had signs up saying, we're in a drought, please conserve water. And I was like, oh my gosh, you guys could have spent like, I don't know, they have like 6 sinks or whatever. Could have spent $30, put flow regulators on all of those sinks, could have saved thousands of gallons of water during the fair. But nope, didn't happen.
It's on the consumer to save the water. They just use a little less.
Yep.
So it's interesting. Your parents don't have flow regulators. I'm assuming they never have if they don't now.
True.
So where did you pick up this, where did this obnoxiousness kind of, or this notice of something being so problematic, when did that seep into your life?
So I feel like I have this very distinct memory of being in high school and having a discussion with one of my friend's parents about water conservation, where I was just kind of starting to understand like personal impact versus corporate impact and kind of how all that ties together. And I think that there was some discussion about putting the city onto meters, because when I was a kid, our water wasn't metered. They came in and installed a meter, which is just mind-boggling. Like, okay, Modesto is literally in a desert. Like, yes, we have a ton of agriculture, but like, it's a desert.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's a whole nother story. But and we were having this conversation, and she was all upset that the government would dare to tell her to turn off her tap while she's brushing her teeth. She can use all the water that she wants. And so I started thinking about like, do I turn off the water? Well, it was this huge thing. And I think that was like the start of like, I felt like what she was saying was kind of absurd. Excuse me. And then I was like, well, no, it does make sense. Like, what things could I do to save water that would be easy and simple? And then I started like just noticing, like hyper-focusing on like where water use happens and where it's wasteful. And I think that's kind of how it started. And then eventually I moved, out of the house, and then I came back and I was like, oh my gosh, there is so much water coming out of this faucet. Every single time. This is absurd.
That's amazing. It's interesting that it came from, it's not like you heard somebody that's saying, let's conserve water, here's how you can do it. You heard somebody talking preposterously about how they can use all the water they want, and your brain went in the opposite direction.
Mm-hmm. It was like, no, that's wrong. Like, no, you don't have a right to use all of the water that you want.
Yeah.
Like, this is a shared communal resource. Like, it's not yours.
So, do you have a moment, obviously, that story of inspiration is fantastic, but do you have a story where perhaps your peeve got a little out of control? A little too preposterous, perhaps?
Well, I don't know about my specifically water faucet peeve, but I don't know that my wife is always super supportive of me trying to siphon water out of the shower and keeping buckets around for water collection to be then put out in the backyard and whatnot. I think that sometimes it's a little much for her
You're just
to
practicing
handle
for the
and
apocalypse.
be supportive of.
You just
Yes, that's actually kind of true, but I don't know if I should admit that in a public forum like this. I do tend to keep it to myself. Like, if I come to your house and you do not have a flow regulator, I will be internally frustrated, but I will not say anything unless I feel like we're good enough friends and like close enough that I could maybe say something and you wouldn't take it the wrong way. But like, if I'm just like at someone's house, like, I'm not going to confront them, just going to seethe on the inside.
How many visits of that can you stomach before it's just like has there ever been like, I can't go back to their house, they don't have a flow regulator, or something came to
No.
that? No? Okay.
No. I have suggested this to my parents and they have not acted on it. So I kind of feel like, personal choice, I guess. They live their lives how they want to live their lives, but I still go back to their house, so.
When using a faucet without a flow regulator, how does it change the way you use it at somebody's like house like this?
So if it's not someone that I know, like, you don't know until you turn the faucet on.
For sure.
So then I immediately turn it back off. And then strategically plan on how I'm going to wash my hands. So if you don't have a flow regulator, usually you can just like turn it on a little bit. It's usually like a ball valve. So you can just open the tap a little bit and have less water coming out, you just got to be more proactive and careful about that. And then you like get your hands wet, turn it off. Get the soap, wash, scrub with no water running, right? And then when you're ready, then you turn it back on. Real careful about not to turn it on too much. Rinse off all the soap and turn it off and call it good and be mad and walk out.
So when you're washing your hands at home, is the only thing that's changing the like kind of the amount of water that you're letting out, like how much you're pulling on it? Or do you not stop the flow of water when you're setting up, so to speak?
Yeah, so when I'm at home, like you just kind of like turn it on, get your hands wet. Sometimes I turn it off, get the soap, scrub, and then I spend like most of the time. I don't know how much time you've spent on proper hand washing techniques and all that kind of stuff, but like a bulk of the time is spent in the rinsing portion as opposed to the soaping portion. If there is less water coming out. Most of the difference is just in my frustration levels, to be honest.
All right. And with that little nugget, we're going to head to our second ad break. But don't go anywhere because when we get back, Bethany is going to enter the lightning round. Do you need 100 pounds of butter? Come on down to Company Street Company.
What if I need 30 gallons of olive oil?
Come on down to Company Street Company. But what if I just want one flatless bird roasted for a reasonable price? Come on down to Company Street Company.
Okay, but...
Just come on down to Company Street Company. We have everything for a better price, free snacks, and employees who don't want to kill themselves, or you, because we treat them like fucking human beings. Yeah, but, yup.
Even...
Just get your ass down to Company Street Company, where the only sketchy thing we've ever done is enable frozen orange juice hoarders. And we are back. Bethany, are you ready to enter the lightning round?
Lightning round.
Yes, I am.
All right, put however much time it takes to bake this cookie on the clock. Bethany, is there a price for you to give up your passion forever?
No.
Make the food or do the dishes?
Food.
Are soups smoothies?
No.
Vests or opera gloves?
Vests.
Did you ever cheat on a test in school?
No.
Are you out of touch, or is it the children who are wrong?
The children.
Shakira's voice in Danny DeVito's body, or Danny DeVito's voice in Shakira's body?
Shakira's voice.
Would you rather have your inner monologue sound like Gilbert Gottfried or Fran Drescher?
Drescher.
Would you rather read the cue cards while wearing the crown, or live in a hovel and speak your mind?
Live in the hovel.
Do you create your own thoughts, or do you just listen to them?
Both.
Eh.
Create.
Take the garbage out or play trash Tetris?
Take the garbage out.
You're having the best day of your life. What happens next? Another amazing thing or something terrible?
Something terrible.
Pineapple on pizza or fist fight?
Pineapple on pizza.
You come across a stranger, just struck by a car. Their dying breath is this. This is very important. Please tell my wife. She's a dirty harlot. Do you or do you not tell their wife?
Do not.
Is professional wrestling cool or lame?
Lame.
Courtesy flush or light a match?
Courtesy flush.
Telekinesis or telepathy?
Telepathy.
Could you eat 37 of your favorite food for $5,000 in a 1 hour time limit?
No.
Congratulations!
You survived the lightning round.
Whoa, look at that. Made it through.
But before we move on to your prize, I, like many listeners at home, would like to now know, what is your favorite food?
Well, homemade macaroni and cheese. So, I mean, I guess if we said that, like, you know, one noodle, I could eat a bunch of those, but, like, for servings, no way.
There's a loophole here. Let's see if we can exploit it. All right. Well, since you have survived and conquered the lightning round, what lightning round question would you like to ask me and in turn be asked of future guests?
Well, 24 hours a day, 365 days a year, always sunny or always dark?
We discussed this beforehand, and this is presuming that there is no effect on the environment. Like, plants will still grow in either climate. There's not going to be any, like, you know, global ramifications for this, correct? You're basically, like,
Correct.
living in permanent Alaska during summer or winter, so to speak.
Yes.
Okay. If there is no damage done to my mental health by always being in darkness, which there are studies that are proven that there would be, but assuming that isn't the case, I think I would prefer it always being dark. Yeah, I think so.
All right.
I don't know. There's something calming about it being dark out. It just feels like it's the good time of day, I guess. Maybe that's from, like, growing up where, like, you know, all the time during the day you're, like, doing chores, you know, you've got this to do, that to do. Usually at night it's like you're either about to go to bed, you're going to watch a movie, you're going to have dinner. Most things that you need to do are, like, done at that point, and so it feels like the world is a little more your oyster.
It's the time for freedom.
Yeah. Freedom time. What about you? Are you always light or always dark?
Oh, I would say always light, for sure.
Classic
Like,
Bethany.
I mean, you can go inside and close the curtains and stuff. But, I mean, I guess conversely, you could go inside and turn the lights on. But you can't enjoy the beauty of things as well in the dark.
True. As somebody who doesn't enjoy the outdoors, this makes sense for me, and someone for you who does enjoy the outdoors, this also makes sense on the flip side. This kind of reminds me of the I just had like a good it's like, would you prefer it always being cold or always warm kind of thing? I'm assuming you're the prefer it always be warm.
I don't know. I think I might go always cold.
Wow, because I was gonna go always cold on that one too. One, I prefer colder weather. Growing up in a desert for a decade will do that to you. But also, it's just like it's so much easier. There's almost no length to how many clothes you can put on, but there is a length to how many clothes you can take off.
That is true.
And with that little funny thought, we've come to the end of our show and our time together. Bethany, is there anything you want to plug, shout out, places people can find you or your content?
Oh, I just wanted to say hi to Eli because, I don't get to talk to you very often. I talk to your brother, but hi, Eli.
All right. Eli feels the love, I'm sure. I'll make sure this gets his way. Do you have any friends, family that you'd like to nominate to come on this podcast so they too can suffer as you have today?
I would like to nominate my mother. I think that she would make a fantastic guest on your podcast.
All right, Bethany's mom, we're coming for you. Well, thank you so much for coming on today, Bethany. And thank you for being my guest today. And a special thanks
You're welcome.
Thank you. And a special thanks are due to my editor, Richard Ashford, and my composer, Joshua Gibbons. And thank you. Yes, you at home listening or wherever you found time to appreciate this. Time is the most precious commodity we have, and I appreciate you spending yours with us. And if you enjoyed this podcast, please subscribe, like, or just share it with a friend. Every little bit helps. Or if you already have and are out of episodes to listen to, don't worry, we put out a new episode every Monday at midnight on Soundcloud, YouTube, Spotify, and iTunes at Passionate People and Preposterous Peeves Podcast. And a very special thanks are due to our Patreon patrons, Sibel Yellow. And if you'd like to join said illustrious ranks and have your name read aloud, just head on over to patreon.com/Passionate People and Preposterous Peeves Podcast. And remember, folks, being empty in the head is better than waking up dead. But better yet is a nice slice. Pizza or pie, no matter, as long as you've got the right flatware. Have a good night.